Imagine living in a world where your voice carried no weight, where your decisions weren't yours to make, and even your clothing had to declare to the world that you were discreet, obedient, and invisible. Now imagine that, even in such a setting, some women dared to believe and changed history. This was the reality for women in the time of Jesus, and what you're about to hear may surprise you. Back then, being a woman meant living in the shadow of men. Fathers and husbands made every decision: where to live, whom to marry, when to speak. Women were raised to obey and serve. They couldn't enter the main part of the temple, couldn't teach, and couldn't even dream of being publicly heard. Their mission was clear: manage the household, bear children, especially sons, and protect the family's honor. But within that world of forced silence, a quiet strength was born. Women were the spiritual foundation of the home. They prayed, fasted, prepared meals according to the law, and taught their children the ways of the Lord. While men studied in the synagogues, women learned by observation. And still, they laid the moral foundations for the next generation. Their long robes and veils weren't just garments, but a language. They said, "I am modest, I fear God." It wasn't vanity, it was reverence. Luxury was frowned upon. A woman's beauty was to be seen in her character, not her ornaments. And her hair? That was only to be seen at home, considered, too, intimate for public display. Despite this, many women knew more of the scriptures than even the teachers expected. Faith was passed from mother to daughter through songs, prayers, and stories told while kneading bread. Even without official permission, they taught. And they taught through their lives. Because true faith doesn't need a pulpit. It needs testimony. And it was into this world that Jesus appeared. Unlike anything anyone had ever seen, he spoke to women. He touched them. He defended them before religious authorities. When others wanted to stone, he offered mercy. When others despised, he offered healing. And more, he allowed them to follow him. Ordinary women, without status, became disciples. Mary Magdalene, for instance, was healed and became one of his most faithful followers. Martha and Mary, sisters of Lazarus, showed that faith could be active or contemplative. The woman suffering from bleeding touched his robe and was called daughter. The Samaritan woman, rejected by all, became the first evangelist. What do all these stories have in common? The courage to believe. Even after his death, it was they, the women, who remained at the foot of the cross. They were the ones who went to the tomb at dawn, and they were the first to hear, "He is risen." In a world where a woman's voice wasn't even accepted. In court, God chose them to carry the greatest news in history. And since then, those seeds continue to bloom. In every mother who prays for her child, in every grandmother who teaches through stories, in every young woman who chooses to walk with God. They are the continuation of a silent but unbreakable legacy. A legacy made of faith, surrender, and hope that doesn't die, even when the world tries to extinguish it. So as you lay down tonight, think of this. Maybe you'll never stand on a stage. Maybe your faith will never make headlines. But if it's lived in truth, it will be eternally remembered in heaven. Because to God, no sincere prayer ever goes unnoticed. Good night. And may the example of the women from Jesus' time warm your soul and strengthen your faith. They had no pulpits, but they had purpose. They didn't preach with words, but with gestures. And that's what touched God's heart. While the names of great leaders were carved into stone, the names of these women were being written in heaven. Their deeds didn't echo in the synagogues, but resonated in the quiet spaces of their homes, where faith was ignited through songs and prayer. Every loaf of bread kneaded, every knee bent, every secret tear was an invisible offering to human eyes. but visible before the throne of God. And Jesus saw it. He saw the woman with the issue of blood, trembling as she touched his robe. He saw the widow who placed 2 small coins in the temple. He saw Mary at his feet, listening in silence. To the world they were ordinary women, but to Jesus they were spiritual giants. Even with culture stacked against them, they did not give up. And when the world told them, "Stay silent," they prayed louder in their hearts. While the Pharisees judged who could be near to God, they drew near with faith, breaking protocols with humility. They proved that you don't need power to change history. You need faith. Simple faith, like the woman who found Jesus on the road and poured perfume on his feet. Bold faith, like the Syrophoenician woman who pleaded for her daughter's healing. Persistent faith, like the women who went to the tomb in darkness, not knowing who would roll away the stone. These women weren't just present in the story of salvation. They sustained it with the strength that comes from God. And that's why even today, in a world so noisy, the testimony of these women continues to whisper to attentive hearts. Because the gospel didn't grow only with loud voices, but also with hearts that loved deeply. And many of those hearts were feminine, hearts that beat strong even without recognition. Hearts that held up children, families, churches, entire communities. Hearts that didn't give up, even when all seemed lost. When you feel like your faith is too small, remember these women. Remember that heaven was moved by acts no one saw, and that sometimes a simple touch, if done with faith, can change destinies. Because these women taught us that true spirituality doesn't perform, it blooms. And even without titles, applause, or official positions, they were the pillars of a silent revolution. The revolution of love, of hope, and of complete surrender to God. May this story embrace you tonight, as a reminder that you too carry that same strength. That even in silence, God sees you. That even if no one else notices what you do, He values it. Good night. And may you rest in the certainty that true faith, even when lived in anonymity, shines with eternal light.